Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing well out there, Heat Nation. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be great. Watch the Tobin and Leroy show weekdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're like five weeks away from camp. Oh, we're getting close, baby. We are getting close to Heat basketball. It has been sweet. Right now, we're in a bit of a barren desert. Everybody's on vacation. Thank goodness we had some nostalgia this past week with Goran Dragic's farewell game and Chris Bosh. But I was thinking, I was like, you know what? We gotta figure out some content for the channel, right? We gotta figure out some things to talk about with your Miami Heat squad. And as I was taking the long drive home, I'm like, you know what? Let us do a list. All right. This is a list from old Tobes, and it's members of the Miami Heat who are under the most pressure this upcoming season. I have whittled it down to 5. And I went a little bit wonky on it, okay? Because I feel like everybody would be like, what's the list? Oh, Tyler Hero, number 1, or Jimmy Butler, number 1. No, not in my top 5. Not in my top 5. I did not put them in my top 5. And here's why. One, I wanted this to be a little bit more of an interesting list. All right, I have some more guys coming from some more bases to make my top 5. And secondly, I don't find Tyler Hero to be under a lot of pressure. He is in the middle of a $130 million extension. He really just has to stay healthy. I mean, that's kind of his only pressure. And Jimmy kind of the same way. Like, there's nothing that's really on their games that I truly feel that there is pressure about coming up this year. Really, the only pressure for them is be available. Be available. Play in games. Need you to play in games. If you're playing games, I think I know what I'm going to get from Jimmy Butler. Tyler Hero plays games. I think I know what I'm going to get from Tyler Hero. Terry Rozier, same thing. Terry Rozier plays, I think what we know we're going to get from him. I don't feel like there's a lot of pressure on Terry Rozier. He was kind of a Hail Mary trade. I don't think anybody looks at Terry Rozier and says, hey, this guy has to be the third best player on the Heat. I just don't think that there's that animosity or that kind of, those kinds of expectations on Scary Terry. You want something from him, for sure. I don't want him to be out here being like Lowry taking 3 shots a game, but it didn't make my list. So here it is. Here is my list. I've whittled it down to 5, and this is really a combination. And reminder, this is members of the Miami Heat, not just players of the Miami Heat. Okay. So I've expanded it to the organization. So here's my list. I'm going to count backwards because that's how lists work, dude. You work your way back to the highest level, all right? Number 5 on my list of members of the Miami Heat facing the most pressure this season. Number 5, Jaime Jaquez Jr. First off, you have the pressure of the dreaded sophomore slump. Now, thankfully for Jaime, he has already faced a little bit of the rookie wall. He knows the trials and tribulations of a long basketball season. He was very open and honest about this, about how much basketball he had to play this year. And one of the things you love about Jaime, he was available. But the interesting thing with Jaime is what really is going to be his role this year. Is Jaime Jaquez Jr. going to be looked as the Super Six Man of the Year? Probably not going to start. I think, we have at least 4 of the 5 spots definitely figured out for the starting lineup for the Miami Heat. And so where does he carve his niche? Where does a guy who is first team all rookie blossom? And what does he turn into for this team? To the boys on Locked On Heat, I think I saw an Instagram post where Wes was saying, I think he's going to end up closing games. It's an interesting thought, but then you think about, like, if that is the case, that he's able to close games, who's getting the boot? Right? Like who is, and maybe they talked about this on the podcast. I haven't heard it, boys. I'll listen to you guys later in the week. But who is getting the boot in that situation, right? Like, is this a situation where Jimmy's unavailable? Okay, easy does it. But if Jimmy's out there, if Tyler's out there, if Terry's out there, if Bam's out there, is it a super small lineup with Jaime out there too? We did see, I think, in those in the play-ins, and I think in the playoff series, I think we saw a guy who's definitely not scared of the moment. But it is going to be interesting with Jimmy Butler here, with Tyler Hero here, with Terry Rozier here, with Bam Adebayo here. Where does a guy whose best asset is scoring, Being a spark plug, where does he craft himself to be a guy who is unable to be taken out of the rotation by Eric Spoelstra? And that's where the pressure kind of comes in for him. What is the next step for Jaime Jaquez? That's the interesting thing here. Why he's on the list and why Tyler Hero's not on the list is because while Tyler Hero makes his money, he's already kind of made his mark. Tyler Hero was a sixth man of the year his third year into the league. So the question is for Jaime, all right, you had the sensational rookie year, steal of the draft, everybody's darling. What now is the next step? There's some pressure that comes with that. So that's why he's number 5 on my list of members of the Miami Heat facing the most pressure this season. Number 4. A little scared about this one. All right. Number 4 on my list, Eric Spoelstra. Now, hear me out when I say this. All right. Obviously, Eric Spoelstra is not going anywhere. So, from a job security standpoint, he doesn't face any pressure. But here's what I'm tired of, okay? And I know I can already see the eyes rolling in the Heat office because
that's ridiculous. It's just that's the untrained eye that says something like that.
Yeah, my eye is very untrained. And I understand that. And I'm willing to go out here and say that I'm a greedy pig for this because I'm very appreciative of everything Eric Spoelstra does. But there's a couple things I want to change in Spoland, okay? Numero uno is this offense, and I'm going to put this very nicely, has been horrible to watch the last couple of seasons. And I know this man, one of the great minds of basketball, and he's able to piece together, duct tape together rosters and starting lineups. I'm doing this under the caveat of not record amount of starting lineups this year. I'm giving Eric Spoelstra health. It's a big if. However, there's still something to the duo of Jimmy and Bam not being like the cleanest star duo because they're two-way players. Neither one is like the most polished offensive. No one is just a pure scorer. Even though Jimmy Butler in the playoffs is a different animal as a scorer, he goes to another level. I'm talking about regular season. Regular season Jimmy Butler, regular season Bam Adebayo, sprinkle in a Tyler Hero, sprinkle in a Jaime Jaquez, sprinkle in a Terry Rozier. How do you get this all to look beautiful? And who takes the reins in a hierarchy to be the guy? All right, enough of this. Everybody averages 20 thing. Who's going to be the guy that goes in there and averages 24, 25? We're sitting here in an era right now in the NBA where the scoring has never been higher. And last year, these are the teams. All right, Miami Heat were what was this? They were 25th in scoring last year. These are the only teams they were above: the Pistons, the Hornets, the Trailblazers, and the Grizzlies. I mean, wow. And then the year before that, in the 2022-23 regular season, the year that they ended up going to the finals, and things did shift for them because they were not, couldn't hit the broadside of a barn as a three-point shooting team, dead last, behind the Pistons, behind the Rockets, behind the Hornets. So there's a pressure to me on Eric Spoelstra to go out there and fix it, dude. I want to have entertaining basketball to watch. I want to be out here, and I want to be watching clutch games going down to the wire. I want them to figure out a hierarchy. We know who's going to go score the rock every single night, and I am sick and tired of Eric Spoelstra's teams going out there and trying to win rock fights every single night. They're trying to go out there and snuff everybody out like Khabib and ground and pound and flatten you out. I don't want that. I want some beautiful offense. I want like some Sugar Sean O'Malley. I want some beautiful Alex Pajeda, some style bender scoring. I want some great striking, some Dustin Poirier, a little bit of excitement on the feet. And it's been a crawl. So for me, number 4 on my list is Eric Spoelstra, and I'm sorry.
Get some sleep.
I deserve that. And my eye is so untrained. Number 3 on my list. This I feel like is going to be my most controversial on the list, and that is including Eric Spoelstra, which is maybe I already have regrets about. But number 3 on my list of members of the Miami Heat with the most pressure on them next season, Nikola Jovic, dude.
He just bullshit. That's it.
You may be saying to yourself, Tobes, he just turned 21 years old. How in God's name can you put pressure, the third most amount of pressure, on a kid? And I'll tell you why. This is a huge year for Nikola Jovic. Year 3 is a big year because after year 3, you're always eligible for an extension after that year, so that's a big thing. Second of all, this is a big year because Nikola Jovic is in an interesting spot for this team. What is going to be his role for them, right? Where is the offensive game for him? And especially when it's not grab the rebound, run down the court. Where is it for him? What is he going to be? Is he going to be trusted by Eric Spoelstra? Because remember, he had to basically be strong on my injury to finally get a starting gig. This guy was sent to Sioux Falls last year. Everybody said coming into last year, more swagger than ever. He's walking with a bravado. And then that was, quickly sent to Sioux Falls, and he was playing center. And Jimmy Butler comes out and says he's not a 5. Then finally all the injuries happen. He gets to be the starting 4 next to Bam. They seem like they find something. There's something dynamic there, was the words that Spo used with him. But it's interesting because the Miami Heat just drafted Kel'el Ware and just drafted a 7-footer. Now, I would say, based on Spo's record in the past, his track record probably means Kel'el Ware is going to come off the bench the first year. That's typically what he does with young bigs. That's what he did with Bam. That's what he typically did with Precious Achiuwa. That's what he normally does. Well, you have a young big, usually comes off the bench. Even at Hassan Whiteside when he came up, G League, blowing up, and then boom, undeniable. So Spo typically slow rolls it. But let's just say we have a camp where the chemistry between Kel'el and Bam Adebayo is magnifique. It is terrific. If Nico isn't starting for this team, what would his role be? Would he come off the bench? Would he be the backup 4? Would he leave some Bam minutes? I'm not saying he's unplayable, but just thinking about the rotation, if he doesn't have those starting minutes at the starts of each of the game and the start of the third quarter, where is that role for him? And where does he have to grow the most? I think he showed himself to be a capable shooter, capable rebounder. He obviously likes to have his head up and get his teammates involved. Very unselfish player. So for a lot of guys on this team who want the ball, who need the ball, he's not a guy who is going to demand the ball a ton. I think that is a plus for him and what makes him easier to fit in. But still, you got to think about, adding a Kel'el Ware into the mix puts a little bit of pressure because I think it has a little bit of a camp competition there for Nico. If Bam truly does want to play the 4, the most natural move there would be, hey, Kel'el's going to be your starting center. Ergo, then what happens to Nico? Now, there's some some photos that came out today. This is from his trainer in Serbia. I had to translate this caption, so excuse me. It says, our Golden Boy finished preparations, and judging by his temperature, he is moving to colder places. May he return to us with a ring and without a scooter. That they should make that a t-shirt. Special thanks to the guys from Miami who supported us and severally shared information with us. And that is from his trainer on Instagram. But you can see some photos. Still looking massive. This is still a young man, 21 years old. But this is a big year for him. It's a big year for him with a little bit of competition coming in and to figure out what his role was and knowing that he had to fight for it a little bit. Nikola Jovic, number 3 on my members of the Miami Heat under the most pressure going into this season. Number 2, the front office. Dude, you've had us sitting on our hands here for years, okay? Yes, you made the Terry Rozier trade. I appreciate the swing. Did you give up too much? Did you delude yourself into thinking, hey, this is a must move, we'll actually be contenders? I don't know. how are they to know that Terry Rozier is going to get his neck? It was going to hurt his neck. He was just starting to cook. He was making crazy shots. He was starting to be Scary Terry. And Scary Terry wants to be on the Miami Heat. He is an unselfish guy. He doesn't feel like a guy who wants to take the keys from everybody. He wants to fit in, but also we know his difficult shot-making ability. This man, as he said, watch this. That there's more to come from Scary Terry. However, respectfully, Terry Rozier is not a whale. And this is a Heat team that just got off the Olympics with Bam Adebayo, Eric Spoelstra, hobnobbing with some of the greats. You'd have to think. By the way, don't think I didn't notice Andy Ellisberg at Gogie's game. Looking at Luka. Wink. Wink. Just saying. You have to think that these guys have got to finally realize if the Heat are contenders, if the Heat really do get off to a great start, which kind of goes into the other part of Eric Spoelstra's pressure of like, hey, this team needs to get off to a great start. But if they do they take a big swing? Do they use some of these young guys who I've mentioned on this list, package it, disgruntled Kevin Durant, a disgruntled Trae Young? Do they feel like that gets them over the hump? A Brandon Ingram, a whomever, a Steph Curry. If any of these guys become available, the front office, you've had the patience of the fans really, really waning. And I got to say, a trade deadline where it feels like somebody in the West is going to be left out. You have watched every Eastern Conference rival make a move. It's hard for me not to look at you and say, hey, you arguably have the most pressure on you out of anybody else. Pat Riley, Andy Ellisberg, Adam Simon. You've done tremendous. You're abstained from this. Yeah, I got to tell you, man, I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, hey, man, where is the big move? Where is the orca? Where is the whale? We've been sitting here and we've been waiting nonstop, and every time there's fun moves to be made, there's no moves. So Pat Riley, the front office, number 2 of
keep your mouth shut.
Okay, I apologize. Sorry, Godfather. Finally, member of the Miami Heat with the most pressure on them this upcoming season. Bam Adebayo. Now, you may say, Tobin, didn't you say that Tyler Hero's no pressure? He's got his contract. He's all set. Bam, just signed an extension. What does he have pressure for? Here's the thing, though, dude. Bam Adebayo is at an interesting point in his life, right? This man has had a different type of confidence bestowed upon him from Team USA, a different one even from the first gold medal. He's going to get another gold medal banner up in the arena. But this is an interesting crossroads. The Miami Heat had some drama to start this summer where Jimmy Butler not offered his contract extension, then through reports is saying, I'm going to just play this out and we'll see what happens. Bam, as soon as he could sign it, he signed it. Boom, done. Deserved. But this is like Spider-Man, dude. Great power comes great responsibility. Bam Adebayo. Time for him to take the keys of the franchise and be that guy. He has said, even with the game winner in the arena. They got you go on the tours now. They got the Bam buzzer beater this year against it, his second career buzzer beater. He's got the hold of the franchise right now. Because what if Jimmy does walk? If Jimmy does end up walking, there's no doubt about this, about whose franchise it is. He has become a more vocal leader. That is definitely the case. That was the case in Team USA, that he was being more vocal. But that even has to be the case now with this Heat locker room. At 27 years old, going into his 8th season, this needs to be a guy that, does take the reins. And what I mean by this is, after the All-Star, what typically happens is once everybody gets healthy, is after the All-Star break, the shot attempts, the scoring always seems to go on a trajectory of down in the regular season for Bam Adebayo. That can't happen this year. This is a man who still needs to be either the one or the two offensively for the Heat at all times. And one of the things that I absolutely want to keep seeing is to keep this man to keep shooting. Now, last year, he went from years where the most threes he had ever made was 3 threes. He then went 3, 2, 2, 0, 1. Last year made 15 from downtown in the regular season. I looked to a man who was adored by Heat fans this past weekend. And I kind of compared to them as almost, I don't know if this topic makes it, opposite parallels to each other, right? Chris Bosh comes into Eric Spoelstra's system, one of the most polished offensive bigs in the league, and becomes enormous as being the anchor small ball 5 defensively for everything they do, sacrificing. Whereas Bam, it was all built in and got on the floor because of his defensive prowess, and everything has blossomed offensively from then. But the 3 ball is a fascinating thing by both of these guys, because if you go to Chris Bosh, now it was a little bit longer. I think this is year 9 for him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. All right. When Chris Bosh was 27 years old, Bam's age, he went from back-to-back single-digit years of made 8 threes, made 6 threes. The next year, he made 10 threes. And the next year, he made 21 threes. That was the year the Heat won their last championship, 12-13. To the next year, 74 threes he made that season. And went from taking 74 attempts to 218 attempts. I'm not suggesting a jump quite that high, because Bam last year kind of just did this in the middle of the year where he took 42 threes last year. But I am suggesting we need to be in the hundies, okay? Because Chris Bosh, when he was 28 years old, he was 21 of 74 from downtown in the regular season in 74 games. The next year, 74 of 218. I want Bam Adebayo cleanly in the hundreds of attempts this year. I see no reason why not. The man is clearly your franchise player. He has a confidence to go take it. Let's see it. Let's see it fit in. Let's take that addition. And if that's the case, then all of a sudden we may have a guy who's going and becoming a more dangerous offensive player. We see the capability of it. We saw him willing to take it on the big stage. I want to see a lot more of it. But look, it's his franchise. You know, Pat Riley said that Jimmy Butler was the biggest needle mover. Bam Adebayo needs to take that reign this year. He does. When Jimmy doesn't get paid and you do, the pressure then does shift to Bam Adebayo. And don't think that if there's a couple of games that you lose in a row that there won't be some possibility of some snark about, well, go talk to him. He's the guy that they invested in. You know, that there couldn't be a little bit of petty that's frosty over the other way. I hope not, but you can't rule it out. And that's why, to me, he's got the most pressure on him this season. He does. I think he's ready for it. I think this is him really entering the prime of his career, and I think he's an appropriate guy to say that the member of the Miami Heat with the most pressure on them this year is Bam Adebayo. For the people out there who want to say, oh, why no Jimmy, why no Tyler? Again, Jimmy Butler, I think from a pressure standpoint, I think Jimmy Butler's done and fulfilled his Heat career tremendously. The only thing that he didn't have for them last year was availability. Did he get too cocky? Yes. But I think we all know what Jimmy Butler is. This man is not going to hit I don't think Jimmy Butler hits another crescendo as a Heat player. There's no next step of his career. There's only, can you give us what you're capable of? And can you be available to him? I don't find that to be a high-pressure situation for Jimmy Butler. I really don't. I don't think there's a lot of pressure to ask, hey, can you be available for your job? So that's why he's not on my top 5. He's established in his career. And Tyler, a little bit of the same thing. Like, availability is the number one thing. If he's available and he stinks up the joint, then yeah. I think if this was a list of like, hey, going into the playoffs, who would have the most pressure on him? Then I think it maybe jumps, Tyler Hero's on the list. I'm talking about going into the regular season, though. Yeah, it's an availability thing. I think if Tyler Hero's available for games, then obviously, you want to perform well, but I don't think we have any questions, and I think with his security right now, I don't think he has this overwhelming feeling of pressure. I think he just wants to go out there and perform. So that's why those two weren't on the list for me. But happy to take your disagreements.